Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for part one of our three-part SAP S/4HANA A Day in the Life webinar series. My name is Rihanna Thompson, and I will be your moderator for today. And we have just a few announcements before we begin today's presentation. I'd like to begin by introducing today's presenter, Christina Gordon, who is our lead solution architect at Illumini. In this first webinar of our series, we'll be focusing on the role of individuals working in plant maintenance. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and our presenter. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them out in the chat, and we will voice them to our presenter during our Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We hopefully will have time to get to everyone. With that being said, Christina, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Rihanna. Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today for part one of A Day in the Life webinar series. So today we're going to focus on a day in the life of a maintenance planner and scheduler, and we're going to showcase the transformational user experience in the new enterprise asset management functionality. The new paradigm in S/4HANA really aims to help users understand how they're doing with embedded analytics, to show what you should be working on through exception reporting, and to give you that real-time maintenance cost and maintenance budgeting experience to keep you on track and give you the ability to forecast, in addition to facilitating day-to-day transactional processing. So this webinar will also focus on the ease of use for running all of your other maintenance activities in a real-time environment. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so first I want to take a look at the work management process, or as we call it, the WMP. So this is an industry standard process that moves from work identification, which are your notifications, to documentation and defect elimination, which is, from cradle to grave. At the end, your engineers are looking at your defects and your analytics and able to really make your plant a lot more reliable with some great metrics in here for defect elimination. So we're going to be focusing on the planning and scheduling piece of this overall WMP. And as you can see, a maintenance process is really shared between maintenance and production. And really takes both functions holding hands to gain the full scope of your program. So from staying in compliance with regulatory laws to understanding what your maintenance, labor, service, and material costs are each month, over the years, SAP has evolved to ensure challenges of the user experience are met. And today, with S/4HANA, we can roll out a complete maintenance program that is simplified and actually makes the lives of our maintenance personnel so much easier to run your plant while staying compliant. So we're going to go in to HANA now, S/4HANA. And as you can see, the S/4HANA is app-based. And because of this new user interface, it's very intuitive to the individual. Notice that across the top, we have groups that are displayed. These are based on roles and responsibilities. So for the planner and scheduler, there are multiple tiles. There are two tiles that will allow you to perform about 90% of your work, while there are many other supporting tiles that will enhance your capabilities and really make you become more proficient in the system. The two main tiles that we're going to look at today are special in the fact that when you open them, they become fully functional dashboards that interface and interact with different modules within SAP, such as materials management and procurement. So this dynamic really gives the user the ability to fully plan, schedule, and execute all of your maintenance work. So we're going to look at the planning overboard or overview. And this is the dashboard for your planner, and it's really an all-in-one tile. This is one of the two tiles that I was just referencing, and it really gives the ability for your maintenance planners to come in and have a daily ritual to be able to stay on track with their maintenance work. Within this dashboard, you see what we call cards, right? And each card gives you another piece of information. What you're seeing here are real-time numbers, right? So we can really look at our maintenance program in a real-time view while connecting with and interfacing with other modules. So if we click on these cards, it will take us to the information that we're looking for very easily to be able to navigate. I'm going to go over these cards and just explain a little bit of what you can see here. So the first one here are notifications for screening. So if you remember on the work management process that we just looked at, the very first piece is work identification. And, you know, everyone should have the ability to put a notification in, right? So there's a problem in the plant somewhere with a piece of equipment, with a location, even in an office, right? So with that, when a notification is entered, it comes to the planner screen and it's letting us know in real time, hey, there's notifications out here. And this is the screening process. This is when the planner can really look at this and decide if it's something that he wants to convert to a work order to be able to plan and schedule that. If it's something that maybe is already complete and he can go ahead and close that down. So it gives him a lot of options to be able to handle that notification. When creating really good maintenance rituals for roles and responsibilities, this dashboard would encompass everything that a planner needs. So when he would come in the morning, the first thing that he would do as part of his ritual would be to look at their notifications. He can do that from a few different views. So if you notice here at the bottom, I can look by priority. I can look by activity type. So if I want to just look at the notifications that have been put in for an inspection or a calibration, or maybe I'm working on a project or a turnaround, and I really want to be able to look and handle those notifications first to take action, I can do that. And this chart below is an interactive chart. So this will let me know what the status is of the notification. So if I want to look by priority and handle my high priority notifications first, I can click on the bar and it will take me directly to that list versus clicking on the card up here that will take me to the full list. So it really gives me that flexibility to prioritize my work. Once I have decided what I want to do, I've screened the notification, right? So I've converted it to a work order, I've completed it. In real time, this number will reduce as we're working on each notification. So if I have a notification that I want to move to the planning phase, I'll convert it in this card and the number will reduce to 2, and then that work order will come over here. So this card is our orders for planning. These are the orders that have been vetted through the screening process and are ready to be planned, right? So in the work management process, again, you know, we want to properly plan a work order, and that means making sure that our services are available. If we have outside contractors, if we have internal labor that needs to be scheduled, materials. So materials are always a very, very large portion of what we do in maintenance. Making sure that those materials, you know, for stock and non-stock are ordered, or any materials that we need from an outside vendor. This is the piece where we start planning those materials. And it stays within this card during that planning process. And within real time, this dashboard will also let us know when our materials have been received, when our materials are kitted and ready to go. So at that point, that's when we would release that order from the planning board and move it to our scheduling board. So that's really following a good work management process and saying we're not ready to schedule a job until we know our labor, our outside services, our materials are kitted, and our technicians can just pick those kits up and go. So that increases your wrench time on your plant and really helps the technicians be able to utilize their capacities well. The card up here, missing components. So this is one of the interactive pieces that ties to our procurement module. So this will let us know as we're planning our work orders, if we create purchase requisitions, purchasing documents for non-stock materials. So we're ordering something outside of our storeroom. You know, when we do place an order, there is always a delivery date. right? So when we save our work order, it gives us a delivery date for our materials. This card will show us all of our non-stock materials that are missing from our planned work orders. So if we are planning a work order and a bearing is supposed to be received yesterday and it's still not here, then this would start in real time. It would give us that number and let us know that we're missing a component for a work order. And if we click on this card, it'll take us directly to that work order that it's missing. And it'll also give us a little bit more information. You know, if anything has been entered into the system from any other side, we'd see that. But, you know, one very nice feature about this tile is that in a turnaround situation or a project situation, you can use this tile as a key performance indicator to let you know what percentage you're at for all of your materials that you're receiving in, to make sure you're properly planned and scheduled before you start a turnaround or any type of project. The nice thing about this dashboard is that you could have multiple dashboards. This is my demo dashboard, right? And I have another one called My View. So you can very easily select the type of work that you want to see on this dashboard. So I could create a dashboard specifically for a project, you know, that might be controlled by a WBS element, a cost center, and I can create a planning dashboard just for a turnaround. And I can create my daily planning dashboard so that I can keep my work separate and work on my dashboard separately. That'll keep all of your missing components, you know, segmented to the different jobs that you're on, instead of having to go in and export spreadsheets to look at your orders. So it's a very nice feature. It's very easy to use. If we come to this card, this is our orders for completion. So there's several cycles of backlog management. And, you know, we look at our backlogs for work that has not been completed, work that maybe has been completed but not closed. We look at work that, you know, has been closed but maybe not financially closed. So there are several different cycles that we look at that make up our full backlog. This particular card is going to give us all of our orders, all of our work orders that have been put on a schedule. Time has been confirmed and the job has been completed, but the work order has still not been closed. So this is the part of the backlog where we can click this button, and then this is where maintenance and operations really works together to make sure, yes, the job was complete and I can close it. And you can close those in mass, you can close them one at a time, but it gives you that flexibility in real time to be able to control the work and make sure that the work has been 100% completed and everyone has signed off on it before you go in and close it. Orders for planning, again, just like our notifications, you can look at it by priority, by activity type, by order type, by user status. And this is also an interactive wheel. So you can see here that currently on my board, I have 24 outstanding orders that I'm planning for inspections. I also have one for, this will come up in a second. So this is something for repair. I have a refurbishment, so something I've sent out to an outside vendor that I'm planning. And then I also have one for fault clearance. So when I come in the morning, after I'm done with my notifications, my orders for planning, I can again go to my most important or most relative. It really gives me that flexibility to be able to prioritize what I'm planning. If we come down to the bottom of the screen, we see purchase requisitions not approved. So this is another piece that interfaces you know, within other modules. And when we create purchase requisitions in our work orders, a lot of times we have a workflow process where the purchase requisition needs to be approved and then converted to a PO, right, a purchase order. And then the purchase order is signed off and has to be approved before, you know, that material can be ordered. And this is very flexible to work within how you do business. So if you don't create purchase requisitions, maybe you just create the purchase order and this card is not relevant, it's very easy by radio buttons to go in and manage your card and just turn that card off so that you don't see it. At the top, we have Purchase orders not approved. So these would, again, whether it was converted from a PR or it was just a purchase order that we created, it will let us know what's not been approved. And if we click on these cards, it takes us to the work orders where those purchasing documents have not been approved, and it'll also show us the workflow. So it'll kind of let us know where things are hung up, right? Someone could be out of the office or on vacation, and right, there's a ton of different reasons why these things don't get signed off, but it could be on critical work, and we need our materials here. So this gives the flexibility to let you know what hasn't been approved. There could have been a reason why it wasn't approved, and it could be documented. You know, the planner can see that here. A nice feature about these cards is that once we click on them and look at our data, right? So if I had a purchase order that was not approved, instead of emailing someone separately or making a phone call, these interactive dashboards have buttons on the main screen and within each card, and it allows us to send by email all the information in each card. So if I have 10 purchase orders and 5 of them are to be signed by one particular user, I could, in my selection criteria, just pull those 5, and then I can send an email to the approver and say, you know, do you need any more information? How can I help you, you know, move these purchase orders? These are for the orders, to really, you know, get whatever information that you need to be able to get these things approved. It gives us some quick links. So different things, if we want to go look at a notification from a different view, if we want to go directly and look at a maintenance order, if we want to look at some master data to make sure that it's set up, it's just some quick links for references. Another very, very important KPI that most of us in the maintenance world will actually do a lot of data mining to get this information is to look at our overdue orders. So your first 3 will always show on your front screen, but you can see here I have 49 overdue work orders. So, and this in real time will let you know how many days overdue that these are. So if I click on this card, it'll show me my total selection of 49. It will show me how many days overdue, if there's a reason for that, if someone's put in a note or a comment, right? So a lot of times things may be overdue, but we have had those items approved because we have a turnaround or we're taking a piece of equipment down and we're going to move this in, right, as some opportunistic work to move that into whatever function we're doing. And that's why it's late, right? So those approvals and permits, we'd be able to see them from this view. And again, we can email this view to any participant within our organization to say, hey, you know, what's going on, or, you know, this is why this is late, right? We're missing our components for this. Our materials have not been received, and that's why we're, you know, hopefully that's not why you're 268 days overdue, but anyway, it gives you that flexibility to really be able to email and communicate with people in a very efficient manner. On the bottom, we have purchase requisitions not converted to purchase orders. So again, it goes with our purchasing cards. And if our business process is to start with a purchase requisition, then convert it, right? So maybe the purchasing department or a manager has to approve to have that converted. That will let us know how many we have and easily be able to allow us to view that. So as you can see, the planner's dashboard really gives everything that a planner would need to come in and begin his day and be very efficient, not have to chase things, right? Call people, send emails, chase down materials. He really has all the information that he needs on one screen in real time. So that's the planning portion of what we were looking at today. And now we're going to go into the scheduling tile. So a lot of times, especially in maybe smaller maintenance departments, this is the same person, right? One person in maintenance can wear many hats. So maybe your maintenance planner also does your scheduling, or maybe that's separated. But either way, we have 2 really nice dashboards for them to work from. So the first one that we just went over was the complete planning process. And this one is when we're ready to schedule. So on the previous dashboard, you saw that, you know, we could see our work orders that we were planning. And when we have fully planned and ready to release and execute that order, those orders will come to our scheduling board. So this shows us all of our maintenance operations that are due within the next 4 weeks. Now we can modify that date range We can look at different selection criteria, right? So it's very easy to add different selections and features that for how we want to look at our work, right? So by priority or by work center. So this allows us to see them within the next 4 weeks. We can change that to a custom date range. Maybe we've got such a backlog that we just want to tackle it in one shot and we don't want to put a date range on it at all. And that will show all of your orders that have been planned and are ready to be put on a schedule. At the top, this card will let us know by priority where those lie, and at the bottom, we have a little bit of a graphic that will allow you to click in each one to go specifically to those orders. Our middle card is our work center utilization. So by work center, and you can see here I have my mechanics and my electricians, and I have my mechanics and electricians, the actual people assigned to these work centers, right? And those are our capacities. So this tile in real time as we're scheduling will allow us to know how we're scheduling our capacity so we can be very proficient in our work. This will let us know for this week and next week how much work we have on those schedules so far for these particular work centers. So if we really look at best practice, what we want to do is we want to try to schedule 4 weeks out at different percentages for those capacities, right? So for our week that's coming up, we want to try to schedule 80 to 90% capacity, leaving 10% for break-in work, emergency work, anything that we know can happen on a plant site. So we wouldn't want to schedule 100% and not give us that ability. But again, we wouldn't want to add so many jobs to the schedule for a particular work center that we're overutilizing our capacity, because then we're not getting our work done. So this really gives us a lot of data. It allows us to schedule very accurately. And it also allows us to see some metrics, right? So, so if we really do have so much work out there that, you know, our utilization is over 100%, this gives us some critical knowledge in the maintenance department to be able to filter that up to our managers and leadership to say, hey, you know, maybe we need some additional help, or maybe this is what you need to justify some additional overtime, right? So, you know, you have that power and you have the definite information to help you with overtime and labor, and, you know, be able to explain why and what you're doing and get those approvals very quickly. Unassigned work. So this will let you know on your schedules for the next 2 weeks, you have the ability within S4HANA to schedule your work to either an area, right, just to your mechanics, or to assign the work on your schedule to an individual person. You also have the flexibility not to do that, right? So you may have different work centers and anyone could pick up a particular job. What this card will do is if you do have jobs, maintenance work on a schedule that's not assigned, this will let you know, how many hours are not actually assigned to a group. So it'll allow you to go in and modify those, or maybe you don't want them assigned. You know, your maintenance manager knows about these and it's opportunistic work, and he's going to hand it out, you know, for shift or, you know, what have you, to be done on off hours. So this will just kind of give you that and let you know what's out there that's not assigned. And again, if that's really not how you do business, you can shut this card off so that you don't have to see that. Unconfirmed maintenance orders. So again, this kind of goes towards your backlog management. And this will show you all of your maintenance orders that have been put on a schedule. Time has been confirmed. The work has been field completed. This particular tile will show you where that has not been done. So it's been put on a schedule, and this is your unconfirmed time. So if it's been put on a schedule and scheduled and no one has done any type of time confirmation towards that order at all, this is going to show you this. So I have 39 orders that are out there on a schedule that no time has been confirmed on. So as the scheduler, I can pull this up and I can look at that work and I can move it to different schedules, move that work out, right? So maybe we had an event or an emergency, a breakdown, something in our plant that prevented us from doing the work that was on our schedule breaks, right? So this will allow us to see which jobs are not completed, and again, be able to email those out to the department to say, hey, are we going to be able to fit these in? Do you need me to move these to another schedule? So he really has that flexibility to be able to see that, to be able to manage that. This visual will allow you to see within that what number, right, has been dispatched versus which number which is due. So these are for our operations or processing status. We also have another status here. These are all color-coded. So these are our operations that are due, right? So these have not been dispatched. They're on a schedule, but we haven't physically dispatched them out yet. We also have the ones that have been dispatched on a schedule. And if I had some operations that were on a schedule that have been partially confirmed, so the job is partially complete, those would also show, and those would give us a gray color code. So very easily by color code, we can see those. If I have multiple schedules, I can see all of my schedules here, and I could click on each schedule individually, and that is if they're in the scoping phase. So we'll get into that in just a second. So if, a schedule that you're still scoping means that you may have four weeks out, 4 different schedules, right? And you're still scoping jobs, adding jobs into those schedules. You're not ready to refine them, lock them down, execute them. So you're still scoping those jobs out. So this will very easily let you know how many of those jobs that you have so that you can go directly to those schedules if you'd like. So we're going to go ahead and click on our Work Center utilization so that we could see a little bit more of our scheduling. And you can see up at the top that we have the ability to select our jobs to schedule by many different selection criteria. We can look at jobs that are have due dates the next 4 weeks. We can do a custom date range. We can look at everything in the past 6 months. And we also have an array of filters of where we could pull up work by different things, right? So a lot of times in maintenance, we use revision codes to separate our work out, right, from our daily, our turnaround, what have you. We can look at all of that work by revision code. Maybe we just want to schedule by that. But basically, any condition within your system, you have the ability to filter on to be able to schedule that work. So once I have my orders and my operations, I can look at my overall orders, and then I can take that down to operations because, of course, we schedule by operation and not by order. If I have selected my orders that I'd like to start working with, and I'm working on a schedule for next week, and I know that Joe, one of our maintenance guys, that's a mechanic, he's decided he's gonna take next week off. So before I really start scheduling, right, I wanna make sure that my capacities are complete. So I have that option right here to change my work center capacity, and I can change it for any schedule that I'd like. So if I know Joe is taking next week off, so that's the schedule that I wanna look at, right, I have the ability to change my capacity. So if I need to go down to 9 people, instead of 10, right, because Joe's going to be off next week, I can change that very easily right here. Then in turn will change my utilization. So as I'm adding my work in from that work center, right, it automatically recognizes that my capacity has changed for that week. I can look at my capacity by order type, by priority, by work center, several different key indicators for how I'd like to see my work. I can add it to a schedule, and this is where I can create several different schedules. So if I want to create a schedule for a turnaround versus a weekly schedule versus a project schedule, I can be working on several different schedules at one time. So I'm going to open my schedules, and I have some that I had completed, or not completed, but created to show for this. And as you can see that I have one that where I'm scheduling for a turnaround, and I'm still in the scoping phase. I have one that I've frozen, and I have a weekly schedule that I'm still scoping. A nice real-time feature is that I can see the attainment of these schedules. So really what that does is it tells me once these schedules are dispatched, right, and scheduled, as the work is being completed and time is being confirmed, this percentage will change, and it will show me what my attainment is for that schedule. So how complete am I? And really what that is it's your scheduling compliance, right? So it's going to give you, and a very nice view, what your scheduling compliance is for each one of these schedules. I can take this into a different view, right? And you know, a new feature in S4HANA is that we are able to look at schedules by different statuses, and we're allowed to do things that we could never do before in SAP. So we could look at all of our closed schedules. So if we want to look at every schedule that we've executed and closed for a particular date range, we can do that. And again, we can export that into an Excel spreadsheet. We can email that directly from the screen. We can freeze our schedules. So definitely for turnarounds and project work, you get to a point where your project manager says the schedule is frozen as of today. Any work after today is considered discovery, right? So that you have a good baseline of what your current costs are or should be when you freeze your schedule. And then any discovery work that you find in the process, you can, you know, put on another schedule, and then you have that data to go back. So if your maintenance costs run over on a particular project or turnaround or, you know, whatever it is that you're working on, you now have the data to say we ran over and, oh, here's why. We froze the schedule with this. Here's our discovery work. One sheet, no data mining to get that, no pulling metrics. You can email directly from the screen. That information is completely available to you. You can look in the refinement stage. So refinement is once you've scoped your jobs, right, and you've added them to the schedule, we come in here and then that's when we really start refining them, right? So that's when we start looking at our operations, making sure that they're relevant. We're looking at relationships. And so for turnarounds, right, we deal with relationships a lot. And in the past, for anyone in maintenance, we've usually had to rely on a third-party bolt-on tool in some way, right, to really be able to see graphical views of our schedules for turnarounds and to be able to see how those relationships are. So an example of that is maybe we need to lock and tag, right? So we need to lock and tag before a piece of equipment before we can go out and you know, begin that operation. So there's a relationship, right? So one operation needs to be done by operations before maintenance can come in and actually do the work. This will show you where those relationships are. So in your scheduling process and as these jobs are being given, you'll easily be able to see where those relationship ties are. So if your maintenance technician goes out and a machine is not locked and tagged, right, he's wasting time. He's wasting critical time. So we know that ahead of time. That job needs to be done, you know, first. Maybe there's a confined space permit. Maybe, you know, when we're dealing with process safety management, PSM, there are a lot of regulatory things that need to happen before we start work. You know, we can have those on here between maintenance and operations and see where those relationships are to make sure that everything is complete. So those are the different ways that we can look at that. Once we're looking at a schedule, we have a graphical view. This graphical view will let us know, and we can click and drag, we can modify this, open up our screen. It'll let us know what our operations are. And again, this color codes. So here's our schedule and a graphical view. It'll let us know which operations have been dispatched, which operations are still due. And, you know, by color code, it'll let us know which ones are in process. So for a visual aid, this is very nice to be able to print a graphical schedule like this out. I mean, you could do it every day, right? Because this is in real time, and to allow people as visual management to see where they're at in their current job and you know, really what they need to be able to do. So I wanted to get into the weeds just a little bit on the scheduling piece. I really like you know, where SAP has come with this, and really the flexibility and what we've been able to do here is just, you know, really amazing compared to how we really had to get around in the system years ago. For all of the real-time KPIs and metrics that we have on each one of these screens that are so available to us, in the past, with maintenance, we've spent 90% of our time data mining and 10% analyzing to see where we are for maintenance costs and budgeting and maintenance work for reliability of our plant. But with where we're at with S/4HANA, now we can spend 10% of our time data mining and 90% of our time analyzing, to really increase the reliability of our plant sites and increase our production throughput. So I really like these features that have come with our planning and scheduling board. All right, the next thing that I'm going to show you, we have just a little bit of time, and this kind of goes along with planning and scheduling, but we have a very nice support tile here that allows us to do a lot of things that we couldn't do in the past. So with this, we have different selection criteria to be able to pull our work orders up. Oops, let me go right back to that. Sorry about that. I think I timed myself out. Okay, so we won't go to that right now. I timed myself out, and I know we only have a few minutes left, and I don't want to log back onto there. But within that tile, you can select your orders, and we now have the ability to make mass changes. Mass changes to the header level, the operations, anything within a work order. If we want to change activity types, if we want to go in and do a mass change for and add a WBS element, change a cost center, we now have the ability to do that in mass in one step without using outside programs and scripts and different things that we've had to do before. And then we can mass print from that screen also, which includes our documentation for our orders. So it's a very nice feature, and it gives us a lot more flexibility and capability than what we've ever been able to have in the past. So today, so that was our two main tiles, and as I explained, we have several support tiles that can help us along. But today I shared with you how S/4HANA makes it so much easier to perform your maintenance planning and scheduling activities and transactions with a significantly improved interface. So this is just a small portion of the full capabilities available to you in S4H and this environment, which includes enhancements for the entire work management process. So I also wanted to mention that Illumity offers a fully integrated mobile management solution within our maintenance package. So it allows our users to work offline. It has GPS capability. It's a real game changer in helping maintenance personnel complete their daily work. So I just showed you planning and scheduling. So once that's complete, we really look at our execution piece, right? And having something, a mobile piece that works offline and has the capabilities that this does, gives our technicians, the flexibility to go out and have all the information in their hand at any time. So like I said, it's a real game changer. So we are sending you right now a short poll so that we can understand what you're interested in, if you're interested in joining us for a webinar that showcases mobile work order. So that is our mobile solution. We'd love to be able to showcase that for you, show you all of its capabilities and how it works seamlessly with what you've seen today. So we're sending that poll out to you now. So again, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to talk to you, answer questions, any information, additional information that you may need, I'm definitely available. So with that, Rihanna, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to you and thank everyone for their time today.
Thank you again, Christina. That presentation was fantastic and very informative. So right now we're going to be entering our Q&A session. So if you do have any questions that you have for Christina, please feel free to begin typing those in, and we'll now be opening up for questions. We do have a few that have already come in. Christina, if you're ready to go, we can start drilling through some of these.
I'm ready to go.
Okay. Question number 1 is from Kimberly. Are you able to export any of the tile content directly into Excel?
Yes. So in almost every card, you have the ability to export it into Excel. So, you know, and that it's very nice because on planning and scheduling, and, you know, and I just showed you 2 tiles, but actually almost, I would say with probably more than 70% of the tiles across all the modules in S4H, you have the ability to export into a spreadsheet to be able to manipulate your data. And then once you export that, you know, be able to email that out, you know, in any type of, you know, selection range that you want. So yeah, so you can email the direct screen of information, or you can export that and have that flexibility to have that on a spreadsheet. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from John. How is emergency work handled in the system, and how is that documented?
Mm-hmm. So I showed you the planning and scheduling piece of the work management process, but we also have tiles that are created for the technician. And those make it very, very nice, right? And we have desktop and we also have the mobile version of that that allows them to, and especially for emergency, for shift work, for weekend work, you are able to create a notification, convert that to a work order and release it so that you can immediately begin procuring services or materials. You know, in a lot of cases in maintenance, if it's a true emergency, you're going to go out and you're going to deal with the emergency, and then you're going to come back in and you need to document that. So that also gives you the flexibility after the fact to come in and create that work order, make sure your materials are assigned and that all that information is out there for you. So on one of our upcoming webinars within, you know, I'm not really sure when we're going to be able to have this scheduled, but we're going to look at a day in the life of a technician, and you'll be able to see the emergency work and all of the documentation, failure modes and codes that we can put in with that to have that information available to us.
Okay, perfect. So the next question is from Pankaj. How are personnel numbers used in the scheduling process? He mentions that he heard that the HR solution is not supported in S4. So in maintenance, you do use personnel numbers, right? So mini masters. And it is a small portion of the HCM solution. I can't really talk to, you know, the rest of the HR solution, but for the HR solution for maintenance and for mini masters, it is absolutely supported, and we do use it extensively in S4H. And there's something new that we use. It's called a business partner. Business partners allow us to use our personnel numbers and our mini masters and an array of different options, right? So throughout the system. So for maintenance, you would still create your HR mini masters as you do today, right? Which is assigning your workers to work centers. That's how we confirm time and know exactly how much time each maintenance worker, you know, has been working for reporting purposes. But in the mini master, there is an info type called communication. And if you activate the communication piece of your mini master, what it does is it ties your mini master, your personnel number, to the user ID of the person logging into the system. So if I'm Joe and I'm a mechanic and my user ID is JOE1, right? I'm going to tie my user ID to my mini master so that when I log in, and S4HANA, it automatically knows it's me. So when I'm creating documentation now, it automatically logs me as the user. It takes that away. You no longer have to enter for emergency work notifications, you know, time confirmations even. It makes it so much easier because the system knows that it's you. And on the planning and scheduling side, it allows planning and scheduling to be able to assign work directly to a person. And we have very nice dashboards on the desktop and on the mobile that allow the technicians to pull all of their work up just for themselves or from their team. So you actually, it has a lot more flexibility. So personnel numbers are definitely still there. They're just kind of personnel numbers on steroids now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question for you, Christina. This has two parts. So from John, in work order printing, are you able to select what documents actually print with the work order job page, and can you mass print?
You can definitely mass print. As far as selecting the documentation, it will definitely print the documentation that is attached to the work order. It does not have a screen that pulls up and allows you to easily check or uncheck the documents that print out with your work order, like I know some third-party solutions do. But we do have some different ways that we manage that and handle that. It still makes it kind of seamless and helpful for you.
Perfect. Next question from Jamie. 1 second. Are we able to do unplanned versus planned work?
Yes. So you do have the ability to do that, and a very nice feature within our KPIs is there is a tile that in real time will actually tell us what percentage of planned versus unplanned work that we are doing, so that we can work on that and get us to a great place. Industry standard, industry standard says you want to try to be 90% planned and 10% unplanned, because you're always going to have those little uh-ohs. So, we want to try to strive to get to that. So within the individual tiles, there is a planned versus unplanned tile that in real time you have that information at your fingertips at all times.
Okay. The last question I have here from Cara is, how do you track cost versus plan?
So again, we have real-time metrics that will give us our estimated versus planned versus actual costs. It is in real time, and it allows you by an array of different selection criteria. So if you want to look at a project, a turnaround, if you want to look at a weekly schedule, maybe you just want to look at all the work for one particular piece of equipment, and you want to look at all of the costs for that. Those are all rolled up in real time in one tile, and you have the capability to download that into an Excel spreadsheet. You can email that. Cost is definitely one of the absolute most important things that we look at in maintenance. And for maintenance labor and materials, we need to be able to have that information for what we're spending and how we're spending it. And that especially applies to our planned versus our unplanned work, right? Because unplanned work typically will cost 6 times more than planned work. And without having that visual information at your fingertips, it can't help you increase the reliability of your plant. So it all works very well together. There are apps specifically for that in real time will give you that information on the outside of the tile and the flexibility to be able to have that data for your upper management and for yourself.
Thanks, Christina. So that was the last question that I have here for you today. I'd like to open up and let everyone of our audience know that if you do have any additional questions for Christina, feel free to connect either directly with her or to respond via the contact us associated with this webinar, and I will happily connect you with her if you have any more questions on this webinar. As mentioned previously, we are exploring more topics within the plant maintenance area of discussion. So you will be receiving a quick survey question to gauge your interest in any more topics surrounding this area. So that will be in a follow-up email. And also tomorrow you will receive a recording of this webinar. So I want to thank you all again for joining us today for part 1 of our 3-part webinar series detailing the day in the life of an SAP S/4HANA user. We will also be sending out a link to part 2, and you'll get a notification from me just reminding you of part 2 coming up in February. So thanks again for everyone who joined today, and thank you again to Christina for presenting that wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Rihanna.
Thanks, guys, and have a wonderful day.
You too.